attention to India as she shares her song with us this morning.
Today's song for reflection is I Will Make a Quiet Place by Michael Gott. It's about the practice of becoming still and waiting upon God. I will make a quiet place, a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place, a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still and know. I will make a quiet place, a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still and know. I will make a quiet place. I will make a quiet place.
Wonderful. Thank you, India. I just want to say that that's Reverend Michael Gott, G-O-T-T. Anyway, thank you so much. And I appreciate India for learning that song for us today so she could play it for us. So let me, I'm Rev.Marygrace Sorensen, like Reverend Paula said, and welcome to Unity Church of San Marcos this morning. My message today is entitled, Hurry Up, God! Have you ever felt like that?
Yeah.
I know it feels like that for lots of people and has felt like that. So let's begin with scripture and see what it tells us about it. From Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, but those who wait upon the Lord will receive new strength. They will fly as high as eagles. They will run and not tire. They will walk and not grow weak. And then let us turn to Isaiah, also in Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 15. In returning and rest, you shall be saved. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. Quietness and trust. We're wanting to hurry up, God, and we've got to get quiet and still and trust. Let me share with you a story which took place many, many years in Abilene, Kansas. And a 13-year-old boy on the way home from school tripped and fell. And he skinned his knee. It was inside his pants. He didn't even rip his pants. And, he didn't think anything of it. Strong son of a frontiersman. He went home and it started aching a little bit while he was doing his evening chores. But he knelt by his bed that night in his pajamas and said his prayers. And he crawled into the bedroom he shared with his brothers. But when he woke up in the morning, it was still hurting. But he didn't say anything because his family's farm required everyone to be up at 6 a.m. doing their chores and to be doing them right. If you didn't do them right, you were sent back to do them again. Didn't matter what you were going to miss, including meals. So he got up, and even though that household was stern, it was love. There was love in that household, but it was stern. And 2 mornings later, he woke up and his knee ached so badly that it was going down his leg. And he couldn't drag himself to the barn. But it was Sunday, so his parents let him stay at home, and the whole family went into church. And while they were there, he worked on his homework, and he finished that up, and he got out his Bible, and he was practicing and finding what he would use for his night of the weekly family Bible devotional. And while he was doing that, this huge pain just swept over him, and he couldn't keep his eyes open. And he set the Bible aside, and he just kind of drifted off. By that evening, after his family returned, his swelling was so bad it had gone down to his foot, and they had to cut off his shoe. And his mother was so upset that he hadn't said anything, of course. You know, mothers are like that. And she sent one of his 5 brothers to go fetch Doc Conklin. And his mother bathed the knee and the foot and was wiping his forehead with a cool cloth as that fever was beginning to rage. This is before antibiotics, right? And Mom was cool and calm and collected. She had nursed her brood through toothaches and scarlet fever. Though she had lost one son, that made her more calm, more determined to fight for the lives of her other children. The doctor came and he examined the legs and he looked at it, pursing his lips saying, "Doesn't look good. I don't think we're going to be able to save it. We'll be lucky if we can." And the boy sat up stiffly alert and says, "What does that mean?" And Dr. Conklin said, "Well, it means that if it gets any worse, we're going to have to amputate." And the boy cried, "Not me! No way! You're not taking any of my leg." Got feeling a little better when that came up. He said, "I would rather die than have my leg be amputated." "Well, the longer we wait, the more we'll have to cut off," said Doc. "Well, you won't take anything," he said, and his mother turned away, quite shaken by this news. But there was no weakness in that boy's resolve. He looked at Doc Conklin and said, "You're not taking it off," even though he was feeling kind of woozy. And he defies that gaze. And Doc Conklin stormed out, nodding to his mother to follow him into the hall, and he sat there talking to Mom and Dad. He says, telling them what could and probably would happen if they didn't amputate soon. And they could hear that boy, this 13-year-old adolescent, cracking voice, "Ed," calling his older brother, "Ed, come up here, will you please?" And Ed came. And you could hear him in there. "Ed, if I go out of my head, you can't let them cut off my leg. Please, promise me, Ed, promise." And Ed came out of that door, crossing his arms, wide stance. He was on guard. He was not going to let anything happen to his brother's leg. And he looked straight at Doc Conklin and said, "Nobody's cutting off my brother's leg." "But Ed," gasped the doctor, "he'll die." He goes, "Maybe so, but he's not. He's going to go with both legs." Nothing changed. Ed stood resolved. And this isn't a house where parental authority was not questioned. These 2 boys were defiant of their parents and trusting, not going to cut off that leg. And for 2 days and 2 nights, Ed stood there, not letting anybody go in except the doctor to leave, but with no saw. Checking on that, not going downstairs for food. And it was creeping up. That discoloration was creeping up his leg toward his pelvis, just like Doc Conklin had predicted. And he made clear he wasn't doing it. You know, it would be the horror of a frontiersman on a farm to not have a leg. What can you do with your life at that point in time? So they knew that the parents knew he would never forgive an amputation. And so Ed's was just decisive, standing right there. And finally, Doc Conklin came in this last time and he said, walked out, and he's just throwing his hands in the air. "It's murder! It's murder, I tell you." The only way that boy's going to live if there's a miracle. Not believing there could be one at that moment. And Ed looked in his parents' eyes, and they all had the same thought at the same time. They realized that they'd given up their faith. They hadn't even thought of it. They were relying on the doctor instead of God. They, with their daily, nightly, weekly devotional for all of them. And soon, they started praying. They took turns at his bedside because the farm work didn't cease. And someone sat there through the night, praying by his side for that miracle to heal that boy, that son. And when Doc came back the next morning, he saw a sign with his experienced eyes. The swelling was reducing. The discoloration was receding. And by nightfall, that family continued to pray. They continued to pray. They continued to pray. And by the next day, or I think it was 2 days later, that boy's eyes opened up. The discoloration was gone. The pain was gone. And though he was still pale in his face and a little bit weak, 3 weeks later, he stood with clear eyes and a strong voice. Now, let me give you one piece of important information that I know Dawn will like to hear. The name of that boy was Dwight D. Eisenhower. Ike Eisenhower was ready to face life again. His parents had prayed that he would be saved for a purpose in his life, a good, strong purpose. And he had one, didn't he? He served as a 5-star general, as the supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe during World War II. He led the invasion of Normandy, which turned the tide of the world and that war and probably our world. We see certain people with courage and resolve, and we wonder how they got that dose, right? How could they possibly be so strong and resolved? And perhaps they've been through the dark night of the soul experience themselves. Something that gave them the strength to keep trusting. To know in that quiet place that God is at work. To trust in divine timing and divine order. Let's look at another scripture regarding this that was popularized by the Byrds in the 1960s. You remember this one? Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. I'm not going to read all of it. For every season there is a time. Turn, turn, turn. For every matter under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which has been planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Kind of like now. And it goes on. But there's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. But we have to wait patiently in that quiet place upon the Lord. Patience is essential for our spiritual unfoldment. It's essential. It's a sign of emotional maturity that we can wait and trust and know. Bernadette Swanson, she's a member of the staff at Unity Worldwide Ministries, used to be a staff writer for Unity Magazine in the 90s. And she wrote an article about patience. And she said that impatience encourages us to focus on the facts right in front of us and nose down right into the details. Yet patience, that's impatience. We go like this. And patience causes us to open our eyes and see the big picture at work. The difference is, impatience is like looking in a microscope, and patience is looking through a telescope, seeing the big pictures. And one of the values that she discovered about patience was trust. And if we trust or have faith that God is at work, then we can be patient awaiting. We can patiently and eagerly await and trust that divine order is at work and everything will work out for a greater good in the bigger picture. Patience lives in the eternal now moment, not in the impatience that's wanting to change things right now so it'll be different right out here. It trusts that the bigger picture is taking care of itself. Unity teaching stress to look beyond the appearances, beyond this present here now moment. And when we're impatient, we're focused right here instead of on the big picture. So my encouragement for you today is to be in the present moment. And sometimes God doesn't seem like God's plan is very logical, doesn't it? Our mind goes to the first logical step and it ought to be this way, right? But we aren't in the present moment because we're trying to fix things and change things. And our conscious mind wants to choose that. And we have to get out of that impatience, find that quiet place, and trust. James Hewitt said that the secret of patience is doing something else in the meanwhile, right? Kind of have to distract ourselves. And it's that uncomfortable place. He also talks about a pearl being a garment of patience that is enclosed by annoyance, right? It's inside an oyster. The grain goes inside, and it rubs and rubs and rubs. Feel rubbed sometimes? Rubbed and rubbed and rubbed. But what comes out of it? The pearl of great price. Sometimes we have to distract ourselves from the discomfort to know and trust that God is in charge and direct our thoughts to God's order and God's love being at work. You know, we often lack patience waiting for good things, like a child at Christmas, right? Oh, we can't wait, right? But we also seem to be a little bit impatient when we can't see the good in something. But we know it is there. Greater good is always at work. And there are times that our ministers are faced with a couple in spiritual counseling. They're having marital difficulties, and they just want to throw in the towel to end it, right? Because giving up in that moment is an easy thing to do. Because giving up is easier than hanging on. Quitting a job, closing down a business is sometimes easier than hanging on. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, but people often don't have the patience to turn within and find out what their guidance is telling them. If we hold on, we can be a part of the people who really make a difference in this world. The people who hang on just a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. I could name every famous person in the world, including Thomas Edison. What if he'd stopped before that last light bulb? We'd be sitting in the dark, right? I mean, you got to think about it. You got to hold on just a little bit longer. Be a little bit more patient. Trust that God is in charge. Maybe the doctor is right. Maybe we're sitting in pain and we're told we got to cut it off or we're going to die. And maybe he's right. Maybe we turn within and we get guidance to amputate. If that's the guidance, follow it. But we got to turn within. We've got to go to that quiet place and trust for the answer to be revealed. And it might not be revealed right now. It might not be revealed tomorrow. It might not be revealed this year. But answer will come. Unfortunately, you'd probably know before that if you were that sick. But often our guidance takes time, at least in my life. I don't know about you. And trust and patience are closely linked, just as that first scripture I read did and Bernadette told us. Patience is proof of faith as we wait for the greater good to manifest. We know here in the Western world that we've gotten accustomed to instant gratification. Amazon and overnight shipping has truly spoiled us. But there's something to be said about patience. Rome and the United States were not built in a day, and neither was Unity Village, and neither has anything in our life of value. It's taken time. It's taken good times and bad times. It's taken patience to live through and waiting upon God to guide us as we eagerly and expectantly await that good. My birthday was just last week, and every year growing up, my mom told the story of all 6 of our kids' births that day, as I'm sure your mom did, and as you do if you're a mother. We just do that, don't we? And she always told the story of my birth and how 5 years before I was born, she got to the hospital early with me and sat there waiting and waiting and waiting for me to arrive. Looking at her watch. You know, you ever look at your watch waiting for something? I was not going to come. But you have to understand, I'm the 5th child. And the 4th child decided to come very quickly. And she was in Kansas City in a blizzard, driving through a blizzard trying to get to the hospital. And when they wheeled her into that room, she was crowning with my brother. Okay? So they were not going to do that this time. So they got there early, right? And before the delivery date, and she sat there waiting and waiting, worried, wondering if they had jumped the gun and were being just a little too cautious and worried about my 4 siblings at home with somebody else. But as a Unity True student, she stopped and she breathed deeply and turned within, and she asked what the delay was all about. Should she go home? Did they come too early? But her guidance was clear and immediate. Simply wait. Simply wait. And lo and behold, just right after that, a young woman, new to be mother, first child, was wheeled into the bed in her room. She had no family. They were in England. She's having her first child. She's alone. Her husband's away on a flight mission when she went into labor that morning. And my mom sat there talking to her, comforting her, reassuring her as only a mother who's been through that experience before can do, coaching her through the early and active stages of labor. And lo and behold, as soon as that young mother-to-be was wheeled into the delivery room, her labor went into high gear. My mom likes to joke that my uncanny knack for being in the right place at the right time to minister to others began before I was born. We're all hoping for something in our lives, and we're either waiting very patiently or we're saying, hurry up, God. We have to trust the light of God is going to shine through us, unerringly leading us to our highest, greater good. Through the activities and experiences of our lives, we're moving to that ultimate goal of our spiritual unfoldment, our divine nature shining brightly, guiding us in our life. And when that happens, our lives are sweeter, they're better, they're filled with more love. We have to have patience to not rush in light. And I'm talking to myself here. I'm the one who makes the list every day and finds great joy scratching things off it. But when we're rushing by life, we have to stop and trust and listen. It's like learning to fish on a peaceful body of water, right? The lines bobbing in the water. We don't really care if we catch fish. We're just enjoying the moment, right there, present, totally present, not looking at the line and the what do you call it, the lure to make sure it's all right. We're just on the big picture, trusting God to be in charge. So I decree for each one of us that we are faith-filled and patient as God guides us to our greatest, highest good. So we're going to affirm the following, if we can have our slides here, the next one. This is the first slide. Let's affirm this with me. I am faith-filled and patient as God leads me to my highest good. Say it again with me. I am faith-filled and patient as God leads me to my highest good. And now the next slide. God brings only good into my life. I am poised, patient, and positive. God brings only good into my life. I am poised, patient, and positive. And one last affirmation. I practice patience with myself. Growth can be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's about progress, not perfection. That was a little long. We won't repeat that one. But I invite you to think about these affirmations and come to me after service, or if you're at home, pause and scroll back and find the affirmation that resonates to you. And use it this week to have patience in your life. In closing, let us remember what it says in Romans chapter 8, verse 28. In everything God works for good. In everything God works for good. Not for some people, not for some of the time, and in some things. God works for all people, all the time, in all things, for greater good. Believe that. Have patience and find a quiet place to wait upon the Lord. Namaste. And now we have India for our offertory song.
Well, this is a song I just rewrote about patience, persistence, and faith. And it has an encouraging message. You've got this. Why should you ask the odds? Why drown your dreams in facts? Why not leave room for courage? An ounce to be exact. We'll never stay down long. Though you're not big or tough, each time you try believing, it's all little stuff. 'Cause you know you are enough. You got this, yeah, you got this. You don't have to know how yet. You got this, yeah, you got this. With each step you dare to tread, you got the faith to keep hope alive. You got the dream, you feel the drive, a winner's heart inside. You've got this. Why should you settle for places you've been before, when you can trade some history for mysteries to explore? A challenge makes you strong, each hurdle makes you smart. Don't matter where you came from, or if you're off the charts, you're guided by faith's little spark. You got this, yeah, you got this. You don't have to know how yet. You got this, yeah, you got this. With each step you dare to tread, you got the faith to keep hope alive. You got the dream, you feel the drive, a winner's heart inside. You got this. If the first steps have you reeling, you know fear is not your name. It is life that you are feeling, and excitement for its game. You got this, yeah, you got this. You don't have to know how yet. You got this, yeah, you got this. With each step you dare to tread, you got the faith to keep hope alive. You got the dream, you feel the drive, a winner's heart inside. You've got this, got a winner's heart inside. You've got this.
Thank you so much. India Taylor, you write such wonderful music and songs and the lyrics, and we are so blessed to have you as one of our musicians. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, once again, as we come to the close of our service today, we have an opportunity to express our sense of gratitude, our sense of abundance, and our sense of prosperity in our lives. So I invite you to affirm with me this moment. And as we do, just remember, feel that sense of God's presence flowing as that prosperity or as the abundance that you're looking for or experiencing in your life. Join me. Divine love as me blesses and increases all that I give, all that I receive, all that I have, and all that I am. For God is my source and abundance is my nature. And so we do take up an offering. If you'd like to share this gift that you might have, you can either go to unitychurchofsanmarcos.org or you can share by sending it in by mail to our address. And thank you, everyone, for being present today. God bless you.